What's up everybody, I'm HoopsandHipHop. So with the Pokédex approaching nearly 900 Pokémon at this point, and likely surpassing that mark by the time Sword and Shield comes out, I think it's safe to say that there's a Pokémon out there that's based on just about every single thing imaginable. From animals to inanimate objects, to fruit, to ghosts, to Japanese monsters and myths and legends, there's literally a Pokémon in just about every inspirational genre, and one of the most interesting inspirations for Pokémon out there is people. Every once in a while you'll get a distinct Pokémon that's actually based on a real human being, and most of the time they're also based on famous people as well, and that is the topic of today's video. So today we are going to be going over 15 Pokémon that were inspired by famous people, and I've actually got a mix of real-life human beings that actually existed, as well as some fictional ones as well, but the commonality here is that these are all actual people and not just weird talking animals or something like that, so it's still equally interesting either way. With all that being said though, why don't we go ahead and take a look at some Pokémon that were inspired by people. First up, why don't we go ahead and talk about the newest addition to this family of Pokémon, and that would of course be Obstagoon. Now, it's fairly easy to recognize that Obstagoon is based on the members of the classic rock band Kiss, more specifically its leader Gene Simmons. This can be seen with Obstagoon's black and white color scheme as well as its long flowing tongue, both of which are iconic symbols of the Kiss band. Next up is a Pokémon that I've actually covered in a couple videos recently just because of how much I love it, and that would be Empoleon. Now, Empoleon is actually based on the famous French ruler and military leader Napoleon Bonaparte, as can be seen in its name, which comes from Emperor as an emperor penguin and Napoleon. Empoleon's height and weight are even comparable to what Napoleon's were as well, so this Pokemon really is dedicated to its inspiration and really lives up to the term Emperor Penguin. Next up, we've actually got an entire family of Pokemon that are based on famous people, and that would be the Alakazam family. Abra, Kadabra, and Alakazam are all partially based on Edgar Cayce, Uri Geller, and a mix of Jean-Eugene Robert Houdin and Harry Houdini for Abra, Kadabra, and Alakazam, respectively. Abra's name in Japanese is Cayce, which comes directly from Edgar Cayce. The general likeness and Japanese name of Kadabra is inspired by Uri Geller, which you might have heard about already, and Alakazam's Japanese name Fudin can apparently, according to Bulbapedia, also be spelled as Houdin, which makes it most likely a reference to Jean-Eugene Robert Houdin and or Harry Houdini. Two of the Pokemon that are more iconically based on famous people would be Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee, as they are based on a number of different martial artists and famous fighters. Hitmonchan gets its English name from martial artist and famous actor Jackie Chan, and it also gets its Japanese name Abiwalar from famous world champion Japanese boxer Hiroyuki Ebihara. It also gets its French name Tainan from another famous world champion boxer, Mike Tyson, as well as its Korean name Hong Soo-man, named after the Korean boxer Hong Soo-hwan. Meanwhile, Hitmonlee also gets its name from a number of different famous fighters as well, including Bruce Lee for its English name, who is a famous martial artist and actor, Tadashi Sawamura for its Japanese name, who is a famous kickboxer, and Yi Sung-soon for its Korean name, who was also a famous fighter. Next up is Kangaskhan, who is inspired both in name and appearance by the famous and notoriously aggressive warlord Genghis Khan, which is a bit ironic considering this Pokemon is supposed to be a loving mother Pokemon, but I guess that fury is what you'll get if you ever decide to mess with its baby. Snorlax, meanwhile, is actually based on someone directly within Game Freak itself, and that would be longtime programmer Koji Nishino. Now, Snorlax is based on the general appearance of Nishino, as well as its Japanese name Kabigan also being based on the nickname of Koji Nishino himself. Now, this next one is a bit different compared to the other ones we've covered so far, but it pretty much still counts just the same, and that would be the creation trio of Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, as well as their trio master Arceus, being based around the concept of God as well as Jesus and Satan. It's pretty obvious that Arceus is based on God because it not only created the Pokemon world, but basically the entire Pokemon universe, and Giratina is pretty much based on Satan because it was created by Arceus but then was banished to the Distortion world when it started to act up and cause problems. Dialga and Palkia being based on Jesus is definitely way less concrete and is more of a loose correlation as opposed to a direct inspiration, but the correlation is still there because of Arceus being based on God, Giratina being based around Satan, and the connection between all of these Pokemon that very much mirrors the relationship between God, Jesus, and Satan. Getting into the Unova region now, the fully evolved starter Pokemon Emboar is actually based on the famous military leader from China, Zhang Fei, who also appeared as a major character in the famous novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms. The Unovan equivalent to Hitmonchan, Sok, is also based on a famous karate master, much like its Kanto counterpart, and that would be Mas Oyama, who lived in the 1900s and not only was a karate master, but also founded Kyokushin Karate. Moving on, we have another trio, or should I say a quartet of Pokemon, and that would be the Swords of Justice being based around the Three Musketeers, as well as the character of D'Artagnan. Cobalion is based on the Musketeer Athos, Terrakion is based on the Musketeer Porthos, and Virizion is based on the Musketeer Aramis, with Keldeo being based on the character of D'Artagnan, who was actually the only one of these four who was actually a real person, as the Three Musketeers story is actually a fictionalized account of the life of Charles de Batz de Castlemore, D'Artagnan. Now, this next one I will admit is a bit more speculation than actual fact, but it is significant enough that I believe it's worth mentioning, and that would be Froakie potentially being at least partially based on Benjamin Franklin. First, if you look at the two side by side, they seem to have an odd visual similarity to one another, with Froakie's dots on its face resembling the bifocals that Ben Franklin is famous for and often wore. The bubbles around Froakie's neck can also be connected to the frilled collar that Benjamin Franklin often wore, and it's also worth noting that Ben Franklin was the first US ambassador to the country of France, which of course is the inspiration for the Kalos region, where Froakie serves as a starter Pokemon. Another Kalos Pokemon, Aegislash, may also be inspired by a famous person as well, as its Japanese name Gilgard could possibly come from Gilgamesh, who was a famous king that ruled during the 2000s BC. And now we finally get into Alola with Decidueye, who is partially based on the character of Robin Hood. Now, it's actually unknown whether or not Robin Hood was an actual person, but even still, he's obviously a famous icon to say the least. Celesteela, meanwhile, is likely based on Princess Kaguya from The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter, which is a famous story from early Japanese folklore dating back to the 10th century. And finally, to round off our 15th selection, there is the idea that Blacephalon could possibly be inspired by Pennywise from the famous story It. Now, these two characters do share a vague visual similarity, but I unfortunately won't be able to go into all the details about why this connection could be legit. However, there is a very good video done by Loxton on this subject that will pretty convincingly blow your mind that this could be the case, so I highly recommend checking it out. And there we have it, everybody. Now, something like this just goes to show how creative Pokemon designs can truly get, because if you can get a good-looking Pokemon that's based on a person, then you can pretty much make a cool Pokemon out of anything. If you guys enjoyed the video, though, be sure to give it a like and let me know down in the comments below which one of these Pokemon you enjoyed learning about the most. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for way more Pokemon content each and every week. If you'd like to support the channel further, check me out on Spotify and give some of my Pokemon remixes a listen there. And with all that being said, I'll be back on Saturday with another video, so hit that notification bell so you can know when it goes live. And with all of that being said, you know I love you guys, and I will smell you guys later.